Hi folks, today is Tuesday, June 30th, end of our fiscal year, so happy New Year's Eve for you accountants out there. I'm going to kind of dive right into our changing guidelines, but I also want to talk a little bit about our reasoning and where we go from here. So just to hit on the changing guidelines that will go into effect on July 8th, big day for us. Number one, we have people who really want to be able to leave campus without having to self-quarantine. So for folks who leave campus after July 8th, they're under this phase of our opening guidelines. There will be no self-quarantine period. However, there are still some things that we would really strongly encourage you not to do. Things like going to a restaurant or a movie theater or a bar. My dad always said nothing good ever happens in a bar, so maybe you shouldn't do that anyway. Travel, getting on an airplane or any public transportation, being around people who are exposed. The idea of leaving campus is local is better. So New Hampshire has very low case counts. Maine and Vermont have very low case counts. Massachusetts is still pretty high, although it's making really good progress. So leaving campus for now, hopefully what's in your mind is leaving campus for local-based trips. Anytime you don't have to be around a lot of people, being around people you don't know is still risky. And no matter what, when you leave campus, wear your mask, keep as much distance as possible, and bring alcohol-based hand rub with you. I will tell you that whenever I'm out in public, which is pretty rare, pretty much what I do these days is put gas in my car and very rarely go to a grocery store. I lather up with ABHR as soon as on my way in and on my way out. So as of July 8th, we will not require self-quarantining if you leave campus, and we'll put the trackers to bed for now. Some things will still require self-quarantine, things like travel, public transportation. We've attached to the memo, a self-reporting questionnaire in certain items, any symptoms you might have. That would require you to self-report to our wellness clinics and self-quarantine. That's going to be in place for quite a while. Folks getting together on campus. We've had a lot of push for the ability or the opportunity to play cards. It's really hard to play cards at a 6-foot distance. So cards is okay, but you got to wear a mask, and you have to bring alcohol-based hand rub with you and use it liberally. We've put a chart together with the memo that we put out. Hopefully that will make sense to people. Knowing you all as I do, I'm sure you will ask questions. Expect that in the next week or so, we'll put together a list of frequently asked questions and try to provide even more detail. The executive directors and Cindy Martin and I put a lot of thought into this, but you always do seem to stump us with a question or two, so I know those will come. Family and friend visits on campus, will allow those starting July 8th. That will be outside only. You got to wear a mask. Your visitors have to screen in. They have to pass our screening. Basically, we don't want anyone on our campus who has a fever or who's been exposed or has been traveling in a public transportation kind of way. And again, alcohol-based hand rub and lots of masks. And the other thing in that regard would be you will be responsible for cleaning, disinfecting, sanitizing the area where you meet with your family. So we'll be outside. We have outside chairs. You'll have to check in with your community, so you'll get a memo from your executive director kind of talking through that process. But some of this is your responsibility. You need to make sure that that you're able to disinfect any areas where your family has been. The other thing we'll really ask you to think about and do, we'll provide you with a notebook in the next week, and just start to log who you're around. Anyone you're around for 15 minutes or more, just write it down, because the reality is the more we open, the more anyone is outside of our campus, the more our risk exists for contracting the virus. And when that happens, the best thing we can do, and what the countries that have opened well have done, they've done contact tracing, they've done aggressive testing, and they've been really good about wearing a mask and keeping social distance. So the notebook we'll provide you would be our little gift to you to log who you're around. The opportunity for testing we have set up through Convenient MD, and we'll continue to work with that. And then wearing a mask and keeping social distance, those are your responsibility. And it is really, everything I read says that is the best thing that we can do. Wear your mask, wear it right over your nose and your mouth. Do everything you can to keep 6 feet from you and the people you're with. There are times when you can't have a mask on, like if you're having a drink with a friend, so you really have to keep 6 feet distance. There are times when you know you won't be able to keep 6 foot social distance because, say, you're leaning in to give an order or talk to someone at the front desk, and you just, something is keeping you from maintaining 6 feet. But you really have to make sure you're wearing a mask at that time. But the best thing you can do is keep 6 feet and wear a mask. So those are the things we think about. We have, I know, a number of people here within the communities who, I saw this posting the other day on the internet that said, just because you're done with this pandemic doesn't mean it's done with you. And that's the truth. But we do have a number of people who are done with this. I understand. But the reality is it's still out there. We're doing well locally. It can come back and flash back up, in which case we would close back down. Our goal has always been to balance the folks who want more freedom, who want to get out there in the real world, and folks who want to feel like their home is as safe as it possibly can be. So please remember that every decision you make about where you go impacts not only you, but also your friends and neighbors. We've been saying that to our staff for almost 4 months now, and they're keeping their lives really small, their social circle really small, and we'll ask you to do the same and just make good choices. And I would end by saying, this change in guidelines, so you'll have a memo and a chart and a kind of a self-questionnaire for you to think about what might require some self-quarantining. Things are not back to normal. Life is not normal, but it's a next stage. They are getting better, and we're excited about that. I like to say, this is me looking excited, but we're also a little worried because we know until there's an active and widely distributed vaccine, everything we do in terms of being around more people puts us at risk. It puts you at risk. So keep that in your mind as you're going forward. Look forward to your questions around what is and is not okay. Hopefully the chart is self-explanatory, but knowing you as I do, I'm certain that there'll be some more questions. And everything you do for now, what I'd hope you'd think about is wear a mask, keep your distance, and wash your hands. So until then,